What's up, guys? Rick here with your 2025 one and done mega preview. It is one of my favorite videos to make every single year, and it breaks down into three main parts. We're going to talk about one and done strategy. I'm going to show you tools that you can use to help you make better decisions, and then I'm going to show you where to play after you've put all that other stuff into action. And then we'll dive into each one of those sections with more and more information. But before we do, I just have to point out the explosive growth that has been going on in one and dones. This is a little graphic that I doodled up. You can see the rocket ship up and to the right, and I really do mean explosive growth. So these numbers that you're seeing on the screen, or if you're listening on the audio version, I'll describe it to you. These are just one and dones that either I've hosted on my website or that I've been associated with because we outgrew my website and I've hosted them on a different website. And back in 2021, we only had 200 people who participated. And then we went up 654, 782, 1100. Last year, 2200. And we are shooting for 3,700 this year. 3,710. That is nearly 20x what we did in 2021, because it's the greatest format to follow for season-long golf for those who are both very deep into it and those who are very casual. This is the perfect intersection of that. It can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. So I'm really stoked. I'll show you what that 3,700 means. It's going to mean somebody winning $50,000 off of a $150 entry in the one and done that I'm hosting. More on that later. You can click the links in the description, but it makes a lot of sense. And if you're new to one and done, it's a simple concept. Every single week, you pick one golfer. However much money that golfer makes in the tournament gets attributed to your point score. You can only use that golfer once. So once you use them, you are done with them. That is the one and done. And then at the end of the year, whoever has the most money in their allocation wins. Now, from there are endless different types of variations. Some leagues you have to pick two golfers for a major championship. Some, if you pick the winner, they go back into your player pool and you can use them again. Schedules are different. Maybe it starts at the Century. Maybe it runs through the Tour Championship. Maybe it goes from Sony to the BMW or Pebble Beach to the BMW. You need to know those rules. The strategies that I'm going to talk about are mostly pertaining to my league and what I think is the most standard version of the way one and done is played. But I do realize and acknowledge, and I've heard from all of you, there's like a million different ways to do this, but it's a lot of fun, and I just can't wait. Let's jump right into looking back at 2024, a little bit of strategy, and see if we can make the best decisions. If you're looking to win a big one and done, a massive one and done with thousands of people, potentially for $50,000 or more, you're going to need to make a lot of money. Last year, it was about $24 million would have put you very much at the top of these lists. So going off of 31 tournaments, you need to earn about 700, almost 800,000. It's about 773 every single week that you pick to be on this pace. We'll talk about how you're going to get to that number in a few minutes, but that's the pace you need to be on. The good news is, if you're looking to just get into the top 10, which is where most of the payouts begin, you're looking at about a little more than half of that, $14 million or so, or $450,000 per pick, which is a little more attainable. Now, this is the highest end leagues with the most people that have multiple entries, all of that stuff. If you're playing in a 20-person league with your buddies or your office or whatever, it's going to be much, much lower than that. You are not going to need that 99th percentile outcome or anything close to it. But when you're playing with a bunch of people and a lot of different paths and combinations, you are going to need that upper end payout. And that's okay. There's a lot of money on the line. We can get you there. We can absolutely get you there. But that is the goal that we're looking for. Low end, about $500,000 per pick. Higher end, $750,000, $800,000 per pick. What does 24 million look like? Well, this is what it looks like. I wanted to give you an actual real life entry from last year. I was combing through the data. I found somebody who made that $24 million, and I just looked at the path, and I wanted to see how you get there. There's a lot of different ways to get there. But what I want to point out is a couple of things. This user took some goose eggs. Got $0 at the Mexico Open, 0 at the Valspar, 0 at the Masters, the Memorial, and the Open. We're going to talk about the huge difference between signature events / major championships, the big purse events, and the small purse events. So this user took a 0 in 3 different signature or high purse events and still got to the top of the board, $24 million. So don't give up, right? Follow your dreams, shoot for the stars. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. All that stuff. You can do it. Now, what you'll also notice is the victories at other big purse events. Scotty Scheffler at the Arnold Palmer, that's $4 million. Rory McIlroy at the Wells Fargo, that's 3.6. Xander at the PGA Championship, that is 3.3. Bryson, 4.3 at the US Open. Hideki, 3.6 at the FedEx St. Jude. So offsetting those 3 big purse missed cuts were 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to call it 5 big purse victories. Started off the year very slow, didn't really do a whole lot in other events, just kind of picked up a couple 100,000 here and there. So winning those big purse events, and we'll talk about it a lot more, is really, really critical. The other thing that I noticed, and this is a little bit different than the way I tend to go about this, I usually go pedal to the metal straight out of the gates. And I start burning, and worry about it later. To me, this looks a little conservative out of the gate. Harris English at the Sony, Wyndham Clark at the American Express, Justin Rose at the Farmers, Max Homa at Pebble Beach, Tom Kim at Phoenix. Even up to the Arnold Palmer, Sahith at the Genesis. That's pretty interesting. Mackenzie Hughes at Mexico, and then Minwoo Lee at the Cognizant Classic. I think I would have burned a lot of other stars in that process. And to see that run, the first 7 or 8 tournaments, really only yielded $500,000. Not that impressive, but then was able to follow it up with the big boys, obviously. So again, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I thought this was a really good example, a real life example of the way the season shook out for somebody who got to 24 million. Signature events and non-signature events. Let me show you something here. The pathway to the top of the board is by crushing the signature events. And I know that might not be what you want to hear. There's going to be 14 of them in 2025. There's going to be 17 non-signature events. That does not count the Zurich Classic. It's good and it's bad. It means that the results are more likely to come down to fewer tournaments, 14 of them, as opposed to 31. But the huge difference between purses makes a huge deal, and I'm gonna show you a couple of examples of that. The good news of it is that you're never really out of it. If you can rattle off a couple of wins like I showed you at signature events, then you're still in it. So again, this is real data from last year. And the best entry, the guy who was absolutely dominant in non-signature events, the person who made more than anybody, made $7 million in non-signature events. Okay. The guy that made the most in only signature events, 23 million. Yeah. You can basically win a league by only playing the signature events. Now you'd have to do the best of them, but that is true. So $7 million of the best non-signature winnings, $7 million is nothing in signature event. You'd be in dead last, right? No, not dead last, but very close to it. So you've got to pick the signature winners correctly. Here's the breakdown a little bit more. So this is sorted by, how do I have this sorted? I don't have it sorted. Let me sort it. I'll sort this by total money. There we go. And what are you going to notice? That the majority of the players at the top of the leaderboard earned about 85% of their money in signature events. The average for the entire league, this league that I'm looking at, was closer to 76%. So the teams that did best earned more of a percentage than average in the signature events. I guess that shouldn't be a surprise. There's more money there, but there are less of them. So in the past, we have really had the conversation. Should I play Scottie Scheffler when he's, going to have to play everybody in the world at the US Open? Or should I play him when he's the only star at the Texas Open? The answer has basically become you play him in the bigger purses. It's just not it's not valuable enough, quite frankly. And if he doesn't win, it's a waste. And it seems like the signature events are very clearly the path to the top of the leaderboard. Now, as far as picks go, there's a million ways to get this done, right? You don't have to put your picks in at the beginning of the year, so you get to see the months and months of play and what your opponents are doing and all of that. You can look at the odds board. You can look at course history. There's, again, a million ways to do this. I think it boils down to three things. I think if you only care about three things on a weekly basis, you're going to be in a really good spot. Those three things are expected value, future value, and projected ownership. And we're going to go through each one of those. Again, the two values, expected and future, and ownership. Let's start with expected value. Expected value is simply a way to say, if we played this tournament a million times, infinity number of times, and all the outcomes and all the results came in, how much would you expect every single golfer to make? Now, if you're Scottie Scheffler, your expected value is much higher than everybody else's because you're the best player in the world. And tournaments that have higher purses, like if you expect Scottie to finish sixth in a purse of $20 million, that is obviously going to create more value than Scottie Scheffler finishing sixth in a purse that's only $1 million. And the calculation is quite simple. It requires knowing what the payouts are and assigning a likelihood for each one of those payouts. So this is a very, very basic example. But here are the payouts that I have. And in our imaginary example here, there's only 5 spots that you can finish in for Scottie Scheffler. And each of them pay between $1 million for first and $200,000 for fifth. So if we say that Scottie Scheffler is going to win this tournament just 2% of the time. So 2% of the time, he wins $1 million. The value, the expected value, every time he tees it up is $20,000. Because 2% of the time, he's going to win $1 million. We're going to say 30% of the time, he's going to win $600,000. 30% of the time, he's going to win $450,000. 30% of the time, he's going to win $300,000. 8% of the time, he's going to win $200,000. You add up all of those future values, and you would assign Scottie in a tournament like this, 5 spots, payout structure the way that it is, running it infinity times, you would expect Scottie Scheffler to earn $441,000. Okay. Now, you can see that this changes a lot because if we say, okay, well, actually Scottie is going to win this 30% of the time, and he's only going to finish fourth, I'll just swap those percentages, 2% of the time. Now his expected value is much higher, $637,000. If this is a top-heavy payout, and let's say there's $5 million for first, that's $500,000, one more zero. Now Scottie's expected value is $1.8 million every time he tees it up. Okay, so it's a moving target. It is a math problem with just a couple of variables, but this is how I think it is best to compare golfers to one another. Of course, you're going to have an average. Let's call the average 400,000. there's going to be a ton of times where, well, we don't get to run it infinity times. We only get to run it once. So Scotty might win and get $1 million. He might finish fifth and get 200,000, but the expected value for him would be, in our original example, 400,000. So what I like to do is I like to compare the expected values for every single player for all the positions. So what I do and what I'll do, well, I don't have it ready yet, but there's actually, I've got tool. I'm going to get to the tool segment, but what I'll do is I'll have a lot of this on RickRunGood.com, which is my data website. It's all I do is golf and golf data and models and all that. And then when I show you the other tools that we're going to look at, this is all baked into that. But basically what I do is I load every purse in, not person. And because I know the payouts for each position and I'm already simulating the results of tournaments, which I can show you what that part looks like. Very rough example here from my website, but this is on the website every single week. It's called the Tournament Predictor. This is just from the Hero World Challenge. I simulate the results of these tournaments, so I see all the positions that they're coming in. So what I'll do is I'll add with the purse an expected value column. I need to redo this tool anyway. So I'll add in an expected value column so that you can easily compare golfers to one another. So it might say Scotty Scheffler's expected value here is 400,000 because I've loaded in the purse, the payouts for every position. I've simulated the result 1,000 times, so I know each time he gets slotted into a position what his payout is going to be, and I can add up the expected value. So that is one way to compare, and I find that very helpful to be able to compare. You know, if Scotty Scheffler's at 400,000, and then you've got the next best golfer at 200,000, and then the third best golfer at 190, it shows the gap between a lot of golfers, and it helps you make tiers. So you can say, okay, here's my short list. I'm going to make my short list of golfers. I see that there's a big gap here, but you know, between these guys, there's not that much of a gap, and I can choose one of them. So that's the gist of expected value. It comes up in our tools later. I will add it to the Tournament Predictor on RickRunGood.com based on the purse every single week. After expected value comes future value. This comes up a lot in NFL Survivor or something like that, where, you know, do you want to use the Chiefs in week 1 when they're going to be probably big favorites in week 10, assuming you get there? Now, golf one and done is obviously different because you're not knocked out, right? That you always get to make a pick later. And also, we don't know these golfers' schedules. We can guess, and we will do a good job or our best job at guessing, but we don't know what their schedules look like. So it's not like football or any other sport, but there is still the idea that future value exists. I'm going to give you a couple of very simple things first. If they are a live golfer, like Jon Rahm is in my example here, you know that unless something changes between now and 2025, Jon Rahm is only going to play 4 events that he is eligible in, the 4 major championships for you. And you know he will have an expected value that's pretty high in those major championships because he's a very good golfer and the purses are huge. But you know that he will have 0 future value in, any expected value in any other event on the PGA Tour because he can't play them. So when you're looking at the schedule and you're possibly at the final major championship of the year, and actually let me do a better, I could actually probably do a better example here. Let's put Scotty Scheffler instead of, or actually I'll keep Max and I'll put Scotty Scheffler in here as well. Okay. And we'll just call, just to kind of keep this somewhat uniform, I'm going to give Scotty Scheffler a higher expected value at the Open Championship than Jon Rahm. So in this example, Jon Rahm's expected value is $350,000 at the Open Championship, which is less than Scotty Scheffler. And you're saying, oh, well, I'll just play Scotty Scheffler. His is much better. It's $100,000 more. But you need to remember, Jon Rahm's future value is zilch, zip, nada, nothing. When you know that Scotty Scheffler's future value, when he gets to the playoffs, it's probably still going to be pretty high. And he's going to play those events, right? So doing a little bit of prognosticating, if you will, looking into the future. He's probably not going to play the Wyndham. I can give him a 0 there. So you cannot look strictly at expected value because there's future value. And the same goes for my other examples here. I've got, you've got golfers that as the year goes on, they are not qualified for specific events. They're not going to play signature events. They might not make the playoffs. So knowing at least what you have available in the future is going to be critical. If you're Siwoo Kim and you're not going to make the playoffs like you have in my example here, playing him at the Wyndham Championship is more valuable because you have 0 future value after that. I did just release some best ball, some ranking stuff on my site. Let me pull that up. I'll include best ball in another video that I have coming up. Hopefully, as you watch this, it's either out already or within the next couple of days. But what I like about this is you can use it for a lot of different things because I have the event qualification in here. So as of right now, and this can always change, I've got a check mark basically in every column or every row for golfers for, are they qualified for the signature events? Are they qualified for the major championships and the players? And you can see as I scroll down, you've got guys that are qualified for some and not qualified for others. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of what they might be available for in the future. We could also use past schedules. That does not always determine whether they're going to play the event. They don't have to tell us if they're going to play until, the Friday before tournament week. So it does come last minute, but we can do a pretty good job of guessing or at least saving golfers based on what their expected value is for the tournament and what their future expected value is going to be, or their future value. So again, just to hammer this home, Jon Rahm, after the last major championship of the year, will have 0 value. Will have 0 future value in these tournaments. Now, finally comes projected ownership. This is not an exact science, okay? And this enters the game theory realm of what are you going to do relative to your peers, or in this case, your opponents. And we could go down a rabbit hole here, but long story short, if you have 2 golfers that are equally valued in expected value, that are equally available in future value, or they're comparable in future value, one of them is going to be highly owned and one of them is going to be lowly owned. For the most part, you just want to take the guy that's going to be lower owned. Okay, that gives you an edge over the rest of the field. Now, as far as finding out this value, the projected ownership, there are a couple of things. The weekly DFS fantasy ownership is a starting point. That's always available on RickRunGood.com. There are some sites that release the information site-wide. So, for example, in the past, I've used officefootballpool.com. So stand by, I'll pull that up real quick. So this is a very rough example, but it would look something like this. They show you the site-wide picks. This says pool-wide picks, but that's because the league is over. But what it does is it tells you what everybody on the site's doing. Not people in your pools, not people in your leagues. It doesn't give you an advantage or anything like that, but it tells you what the site is doing. And I reference this every single week on my Wednesday live chat shows because it's really, really helpful. And you'll see what everybody's doing. Okay, 30% are going to go with this guy, 8% are going to go with that guy, et cetera, et cetera. I'm hoping this is still going to be available for 2025. Office Football Pool is now under the Splash Sports banner, along with Run Your Pool. Splash Sports bought both of those. I think they're trying to convert everybody over to Splash Sports. We're going to talk about Splash in a couple of minutes because that's where our one and done is. So I'm hoping this is still going to be available in the future. If not, we'll figure out some way to do it. But the idea being that once we have our expected value as a consideration, and once that we have our future value as a consideration, the final consideration is going to be that projected ownership. And I've put together there are probably a million better ways to do this. But what I have done here, this is a very just simple calculation that I do just to have it click in my brain, really is all it is. So I take the expected value for every golfer, the projected ownership for every golfer, and then I calculate an adjusted value. And all this is very, very simple. All this is doing is taking 1 minus the projected ownership and then multiplying that by the expected value. So for example, 1 minus 50% for Jon Rahm is still 50%. So I take 50% of his expected value, which is 400,000, and I give him an adjusted value of 200,000. Max Homa, on the other hand, has a lower expected value, 250,000, but a significantly lower projected ownership at only 8%. So I take 1 minus 8, which is 92%. 92% of 250,000 is 230,000. And now Max Homa's adjusted value is higher than Jon Rahm's adjusted value. So this is the way I, in my brain, say, is the difference between $400,000 of expected value and 50% ownership, is that big enough to click Jon Rahm's name compared to $250,000 of expected value and 8% ownership? And in this example, the answer would be no. Okay, it's not big enough. And Max Homa would be a better option if I'm only considering the raw numbers and all that. The reason that I do 1 minus is the way that my brain works is I say, okay, if 8% of people are going to pick Max Homa, 92% are not. So if I'm part of the 8 and he wins, the 8% of us will all move in the same direction. However, 92% of people are not going to move in that direction. So I'm basically gaining, quote, gaining on 92% of people. Jon Rahm at 50%, if Jon Rahm wins at 50%, well, half the pool also got the win. Half the league got the win. Is it that valuable? It's still valuable, obviously, but half the people got that victory, but the other half didn't. So really, I'm just trying to compare myself to those who do not select the golfer that I select. Again, there's a million better ways to do this, but I'm really just trying to create a short list of golfers for every tournament. Get it narrowed down to 3 or 4 guys based on all of the stuff that we've talked about thus far, and then I can make a decision. I don't have to follow the numbers completely. I can have a little bit of input myself as opposed to just bending a knee to the computer, which I do like to do, but this allows me to make a very short list, which is quite honestly what I think the biggest thing of your goal should be. Get it from 140 golfers down to 3 or 4, and then make a decision from there. So how are we going to do that? How are we actually going to do that process? I'm going to show you a couple of steps that I do on my website within my process, and then I'm going to show you an actual tool that quite honestly makes my life a whole lot easier and will make your life a whole lot easier as well, because it has all this stuff already figured out and already loaded in. So if you want to do the research yourself, which there's certainly nothing against that, the place that I would start is I go to my website, RickRunGood.com, links in the description. I go to something like the Holy Grail, and then I fire up this tab that I call Course Horses. This shows me every player on every course, however I kind of want to filter this. So let's call it, okay, you've got to have a minimum of 12 rounds played on a specific course. I want to see everybody at TPC Sawgrass, and I just want to get a feel for guys that could be on my short list there. And as the field comes in, I load the field in, but right now we're obviously not in a time where that field is available. But I can say, okay, Bryson's very good. Well, he's not going to play. Abraham Answer's very good. Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki Matsuyama. And I would click their name. And I'm just kind of going down this list and getting an idea. Justin Thomas. Okay, cool. I'm getting, again, short list. It's all about the short list. I click on Tommy's profile. I go to his page and I say, okay, well, what has he done at the Players Championship? And let's, look at his results a little bit here. I'll try to zoom in for you. Okay, it's a lot of good, not great. His 2 best finishes were 2018, 2019. This is fine. I understand why he's up there. Let's try Hideki. And we go to Hideki, we go to his tournaments, and we say, okay, what about, well, I could have typed in the course name. I started typing in the course name instead of the tournament name. I could have done either. Players Championship. And you say, oh, wow. Okay, well, this is pretty crazy, right? He's got 3 top 8 finishes in his last 4. I know off my head that he was actually the leader in 2020 after round one before that tournament was canceled. So I know that as well, but the rest of his history is great. So again, I'm now saying, okay, Hideki might be a guy that I earmark for the players. Tommy Fleetwood might be a guy that I earmark for the players, so on and so forth. And I kind of just start clicking through some of these. Now, what I also like to do is not even narrow down by course. So I could narrow down by player. I could say, give me Rory McIlroy on every, I know I'm going to use Rory this year. On every single course that he's played at least 12 rounds, where do we like him the best? Well, Quail Hollow, he's absolutely dominated. That's going to be the host of the PGA Championship. 46 rounds, 2.81, awesome. I see he's great at Bay Hill. I skipped over a couple of these that are not on the schedule. I see that he's great at Bay Hill. I see he's great at TPC River Highlands. I'm probably not going to use Rory at Harbor Town or Pebble Beach if he plays those, because those are like his worst courses. They're still better than average, but why do I need to do that? So, right. So again, I'm just kind of making, and I can go through a handful of golfers here that I know I'm going to use and start to make short lists. The other thing that I can do is just not even do any player filters or tournament filters and just see the best player course combinations. So I'll just do this over the last 5 or 6 years and just start to get a feel for golfer and player combinations. So we can skip the John Rahms. Can't lay at TPC Summerlin. That is probably not on your schedule. It's definitely not on your schedule because it's not on the PGA Tour schedule. Rory at Torrey Pines. Okay, interesting. Scotty Scheffler at TPC Scottsdale. Well, it's not a signature event. We're probably not going to use him there. Patrick Cantlay at Muirfield Village. Okay, great. What else do we have here? Jason Day at Pebble Beach. What would be Max Homa at Torrey Pines, Sam Burns at Innisbrook. Yeah, he's been great there. That's a place you could use him, right? So again, I've said it 1,000 times. I might say it 100 more. I'm trying to make short lists, trying to get a feel for everything, trying to make short lists to see that, so when I get to that week, I can deploy the proper strategy and the proper player that I've thought through. Now, as much fun as I have clicking around and doing that, and I'm always doing it, when it comes time to actually make a pick, there's a different tool that I use, and you guys shouldn't be surprised by this because we are now in year 2 of this, and this is PoolGenius. These are the guys that I use all their stuff for NFL Survivor, NFL Pick'em, March Madness. I have a very, very good relationship with Tom and the team over there. In fact, I flew to Denver 2 years ago and we worked on this tool. So I've been consulting on this tool for 2 years. They build it. I've got a little bit of input about, hey, have we considered this? So I'm proud of where this is going and where it's going to go. This is better than anything that I would have built. So I'll link the description. They give us a really good deal on it. It's up to like 55% off for the Rick Run Good discount. And they're great dudes. They do a very, very good job. I wouldn't even include it if I wasn't positive of that. And the reason that I love this is they make it incredibly easy. If you're watching this right now, this might not be live yet on PoolGenius. I have the behind the scenes view of it, obviously, so I can show you the data. I can show you how it works, but it probably won't go live until closer to the new year because of it won't have a field to load in. But there's a couple things that I love about this. First and foremost, it is 100% specific and customizable to you. So you actually come in here and you put in your test league, you put in where you're going to be playing it, how many people are in it. I mentioned it earlier. You have a completely different strategy if you are trying to beat 3,000 people than if you are trying to beat 25 people. Okay. So for this one, let's just do 25 people. How many entries are you playing? This is what was huge for me in Survivor. I think I had 5 or 6 entries. It was also really good there was a March Madness. I think it was a March Madness Survivor. So you have to pick a team to move on each round. I had like 6 or 7 entries. Well, 4 of them you put on one team, 2 of them you put on another, and 1 you put on a third. And it does the math to do that for you. So, if you're putting 2 entries in this, that changes the way you're doing this. What's the entry fee? $100. How many payouts are there? Let's say it's winner take all. This is all critical information because if you don't, why would you play for second or third if the only person you need to track down is those in first. And you can put in, whether there's a segment, or what about this? What if your league runs on a different schedule than what I do, right? So it allows you to put all that stuff in there. And then when you're finally ready to rock and roll, do you need to pick more than one golfer for a tournament? No. You get to save it. And now, boom, it's loaded in here. So then each week, as you come in, you can see the data for that week and you can see the season. Okay. So I've already actually loaded in the 5 entries. Little spoiler alert. The league that I'm hosting this year is $500,000 guaranteed. It's the one and done world championship. I've already loaded it in. So what I can do now on a weekly basis is I can come in here and say, view the data, and it gives me this board. I love this board. I had a decent bit of input on this board. Just a cheat sheet. What is the recent form? What are the odds? What are the odds changing? Right? How popular is the golfer going to be? Everything that we already discussed is in one spot. And then what we do, I say we, because I'm kind of part of this, right? Is it grades each golfer. So, Rick, why isn't Scottie Scheffler number 1? He's the best player in the world. Why isn't Rory McIlroy number 2? Well, based on the grade out of 100, Jordan Spieth would be my best option. As of right now, the odds are going to change, but this is just loaded in with last year's data. Because Jordan Spieth has a great history at Pebble Beach. And also, he has worse future value than other golfers. It's also considering the purse and everything, right? So you can look by the pick grade, the projected popularity, just the ranks, right? The biggest mistake that I see people make, they don't use all their golfers or the best golfers. Over 10% of people last year did not use Xander Schauffele. What? Excuse me? That's kind of crazy. So this basically ensures with the season planner that you are not going to screw that up. So it gives you the next tournament. It gives you your score. But then look at this. I love this. It breaks down the schedule by purse size, not by date, by purse size. Here are the 5 biggest purses. Here are the golfers you should be considering. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Scottie Scheffler, etc. Here's the next tier of golfers, or excuse me, the next tier of purses and the next tier of golfers, guys that you might want to consider. It designates the live golfers, right? Because they're only eligible for major championships as of right now. And then it goes down the list. So the short list of golfers that you're considering for a major championship are vastly different than those that you're looking for the Valero Texas Open, the Rocket Mortgage. I really, I just really like the way this tool has come together and the way that it's improved over even the last year or so. And this is still, there's not even any 2025 data loaded into this, but I just really, really like what they did. So then what you do is you would come in and you would save your pick, and it would, then that way it knows how much money that you've earned each and every way. It's just so easy, quite frankly, to keep track of everything. I use it myself. I think you should use it too. I'll put a link in the description. Again, because I have such a great relationship with those guys, they do give us a discount. It looks like this. So depending on what package you get, if it's monthly or pick'em pools or whatever, there's a discount in there. This bowl pick'em one, I think will be gone by the time you see this video. So just click the link in the description, but it's up to 55% off. They do a really good job. I love those guys. Chat with them quite a bit. So great product. I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't. Speaking of great guys, we're on to the final pillar. Rick, I want to get involved. Where do I play? Okay. So, I have done this in a variety of places over the years, and there are pros and cons to everything. Splash Sports was the home last year, and it's going to be the home again. Great guys that worked with us to do a couple of things. They have called this their world championship, which is vanity, but I love it. More importantly, they have guaranteed $500,000 in the purse. $500,000. Whether this fills or not, $500,000 is going to be paid out. It's guaranteed. First place is going to be $50,000. Second is going to be $25,000. Third is going to be $10,000 off a $150 entry. I worked really hard on this payout structure, on the schedule, on the way that we got the purse for this. So we went back and forth. They're very helpful guys. I made this payout structure. Okay. I wanted 10% of the prize to be up top at first, and I wanted 10th place to get 10% of that, which is 5,000. And then I wanted the first payout to double your money, all while keeping a reasonable entry fee, which is $150 over the course of 31 tournaments. What's that? 20. Why can't I do any math? 150, 30 tournaments, $5, $5 a tournament. Why can't I do that math? But anyway, I wanted to keep that. They worked really, really well with me. They're great. We also have segments. Yeah. So even if you struggle overall, we've got segments for you. You win one segment, it's $5,000. Finish 10th in a segment, it's $500. There are a handful of segments. I'm so, again, I really feel like we've gotten to the point where the partners that we work with are just really good. They share the same vision that we do. Really good for the community. So stoked about this. Couple of other notes about this. This one and done does not start until the until Pebble Beach. So I know that is later than normal, but we do not miss any signature events. The idea was, listen, it's not my money, right? They're guaranteeing $500,000. So they wanted to kind of keep it open a little bit longer. And originally, I think they wanted to go in Phoenix because that was kind of the end of the football season, the start of golf. I pushed for the Pebble Beach Pro-Am so that we wouldn't miss any signature events. So a little bit different, all good. Let's fill this as quickly as possible. Okay. You can multi-enter this. What I want to do is I want to fill this and I want to fill it quickly because this time next year, I want to say we want $1 million. We want $1 million guaranteed. We want 1.5 guaranteed because they've been really good. When we fill the listener leagues every single week, and the quicker we do it, the more we get, right? And those are all guaranteed as well. So I just go get your spot now. It would make me feel a whole lot better and we can continue to pump this thing. This is new information. I've not shared this yet. If you want a little more stake than the $150 entry, we did just drop a high roller contest, which is $1,000 an entry. So $1,000 divided by 30, oh God, is 30-ish. That's 900, right? So like $35 a week or something like that. This is much smaller. So this caps at 278 entries. So you do not need to get to that, $26 million prize to win it. And again, first place is scheduled to be $50,000. Just craziness. This does not have segment payouts. It all goes to the top. But I'm really, really excited about these. We just dropped it. I couldn't be more thrilled about the trajectory, obviously, of one and done. The fact that we have really good partners, really good community. Feels like we're hitting our groove, quite honestly, is what it feels like. And I'm so stoked about it. It's all a hat tip and a golf clap to you guys because without the community, we get nothing, right? Without the community, we don't get the guaranteed $500,000. We don't get anything. So I am just so happy and so excited for 2025. I think it's going to be a phenomenal year, and I cannot wait to see who wins the 50K. I hope it's not me. I don't want to deal with that. I'll come in second or third. I hope somebody wins the 50K. Well, somebody's definitely going to win the 50K. I just can't wait to see who it is. The links for everything you need are in the description. I'm wishing you the best of luck. We've got a lot more coming. I'll see you soon.